Yeah. Hair flip. Yeah, I'm a badass bitch. I don't like it. Hair flip. Yeah. Oh my god. So you guys should be happy. Oh my goodness. Hair flip. But anyways, hair flip. And hair flipping on your toes. Hi.
Hello everyone and welcome back to your boy SeanDavieWay. Make sure you hit that subscribe and like on the way in the door. Hit that bell if you want to be notified of all of the content that we have coming in the future. Today we will be doing a video on Beyonce, Sean Paul, and Jay-Z. Back in 2003 there was a lot of static going around about these three, mainly Jay-Z and Beyonce, and Sean Paul being ostracized after having one of the biggest hits in the country with artist Beyonce. Her alleged boyfriend at the time stepped in and things got a little spicy. So we're going to talk about that today. So sit back, grab a drink, and without holding you any further, let's jump right into Surviving Jay-Z. I want to start this video off by stating that in past videos in Surviving Jay-Z, I've always thought that Jay-Z and Beyonce started dating sooner than Beyonce actually let on. And I'm not calling Beyonce a liar or anything like that. I'm just saying that she admitted on multiple platforms, including the Oprah Winfrey Show, the Tyra Banks Show, and other places she was interviewed in the early 2000s, that her and Jay-Z started dating when she was 19, which would have been in 2003 or 2004 when they actually started dating. I never felt that that was true, in my opinion, because the album Dangerously in Love came out June 20th, 2003, which means that the album was made in 2002. Her first track off the album, her first single, was Crazy in Love, which featured Jay-Z. So that means that Beyonce would have technically have been dating Jay-Z at either 18, and I'm not going to say that they were dating at 17, but they did already know one another. Remember, Beyonce was under the age of 18 in the group Destiny's Child. Jay-Z and Beyonce had already known each other. So with them knowing each other does not mean that they are dating, but around the same time, Beyonce announces that they are, which would have been around the time she was 19 years old. It just doesn't add up. It's like, clearly you guys had already been seeing each other. It was already buzzing around town. They were taking photographs together, being caught in certain places together. And at the time, Beyonce was only 18. So when they came out public about the relationship, more so because everybody had already gathered that they were dating and that they were in a relationship, Beyonce was 19 years old. So just as a little fun fact that I have discussed in other videos, I said I don't necessarily believe that Jay-Z and Beyonce started dating when Beyonce was 19. I believe that it may have started around the time she was 17, just in my opinion. I'm not stating that as fact. I'm just saying the album Dangerously in Love came out June 20th, 2003, which would have been the same year Beyonce turned 19. Remember, in June 2003, the album was already out. So with that being said, Beyonce was only 18. She didn't turn 19 until September. So that means that the album was made while she was 17 and 18 years old, between those years. Because, I mean, let's keep it real. So shout out to Jay-Z and Beyonce. All of this is alleged. I'm just saying, in my opinion, not as fact, I think that they may have started dating when Beyonce was 17. To add to my theory, Beyonce has a song on the same album, Dangerously in Love, and it is called Signs. In the song Signs, she says that she was in love with a Sagittarius. Jay-Z is a Sagittarius. Now, it's not a big deal that she's singing about him, but then I thought about when she was singing about him. The album Dangerously in Love was being made while Beyonce was 17. So a Beyonce is a 17-year-old singing into the microphone stating that she was in love with a Sagittarius. Who is she talking about? I mean, obviously, she's talking about Jay-Z. And I do have more to that theory. But like I said, for her to be singing that song on the same album, when she was making the album, she was 17 years old, turning 18 soon. And the album dropped when she was 18. So there is a 17-year-old in the studio saying, I was in love with a Sagittarius, which is way older than her, especially at that time. So allegedly, again, in my opinion, not fact, in my opinion, I feel that Jay-Z and Beyonce may have started dating when she was 17. In my opinion, not fact. At this point in time, Beyonce is removing herself from Destiny's Child, becoming a solo star, not leaving the group, but separating herself from Destiny's Child and Beyonce as a solo artist. She comes out with her debut album in 2003, which was phenomenal. She came off a great single, Crazy in Love, with Jay-Z, and did her second single, which was Baby Boy, featuring Sean Paul, and the world kind of just exploded once that song came out. It really made Beyonce massive. Like, she was already huge, and the song Crazy in Love made her big as well, but Baby Boy put her on a whole new wavelength when it came to her being a star. And with that happening comes a bunch of controversy, and people didn't understand because Beyonce and Sean Paul had great chemistry with one another. They were in photographs together, and it looked like they got along just fine, and they actually would have made a cute couple. I think a lot of people were gearing for Beyonce to date Sean Paul because Beyonce at this time is listed as single. Nobody knew that her and Jay-Z were dating. They never came out publicly and said, we are a couple. People were just assuming it. So at this time, the fans and whatnot are just like, oh my gosh, you and Sean Paul look so good together. You guys will make a beautiful couple. Y'all will make beautiful babies. He's a new hot artist. Beyonce's a new hot solo artist. It's like these two getting together would be magic. And they are both aesthetically pleasing. So people really wanted them to date, and come to find out, allegedly, Beyonce was already in a relationship with Jay-Z. But how do you approach a situation with a woman being single, which would be Sean Paul, if he likes Beyonce's energy and wanted to date her and was interested in her? If she's standoffish because she got a man but just ain't telling anybody, why do you feel like you need to stop pursuing her if you don't have a reason? Her saying, I have a man, is a reason to stop pursuing her. But her just kind of laughing and playfully flirting with Sean Paul, that, you know, people saw that and people liked that energy. But allegedly she was dating Jay-Z, and Jay-Z was furious over all of the things that were going around about Sean Paul and Beyonce, about people wanting them to date, wanting them to be a couple and whatnot. That infuriated Jay-Z because allegedly it infuriated him because that's his woman. So let's get into this alleged jealousy that Jay-Z had over Sean Paul and Beyonce's relationship. This is an older interview done by Sean Paul around, I believe it was around 2006, 2007, I believe. And Sean Paul alludes Jay-Z's jealousy is the reason he rarely performed Baby Boy with Beyonce. Sean Paul's 2003 collaboration with Beyonce was a massive hit, and it is a fan favorite even 2 decades later. But the iconic international artist recently opened up about his gripes with the collaboration. Apparently, the singer's then boyfriend, Jay-Z, is the reason they rarely perform the song together. Now, Sean Paul speaks in patois, so I am going to try my hardest to deliver what he said. Okay? Don't hold me. Sean Paul's quote about Jay-Z. You never feel comfortable. Me never feel comfortable neither. But me just use me diplomacy all the while and go round any little obstacle when me have in a life, said Sean Paul. So what Sean is saying is that Jay-Z never felt comfortable with him being around Beyonce, and that made him not feel comfortable either. So that means Sean Paul is saying like Jay-Z was never comfortable with me being around Beyonce and me feeling that energy to where basically I felt ignored, or he would just act like I wasn't in the room or speak directly to Beyonce and not say a word to me. That made me feel uncomfortable. But instead of me saying anything or doing anything about it, I just used my diplomacy, to get me around these little obstacles that life brings you. Sometimes there's going to be situations that you're not going to be pleased by, but it doesn't give you the right to act negative and to have a negative response. It's just kind of just let it go and keep it pushing, is what Sean Paul is saying. So, of the two live crew, Action and the Bergerman radio show added that the Brooklyn rapper was jealous and didn't want them spending much time together. Sean Paul's quote, "Yes, to me, that was something that was apparent at the time," he said, adding, "Know that artistry is artistry. Sa ana every time dem ting dem guan." I am so sorry for people who speak patois and that are Jamaican and from the island. I am so sorry. I love you guys, and like I said before, please don't hold me. I'm just trying to get this man's word across. I know I am slaughtering y'all's beautiful language, and I am so sorry. But he is saying that it was apparent, like he knew that Jay-Z clearly was jealous of him being around Beyonce, that he did not want that happening. So it just caused for business to go awry because they had a huge song, and it's a shame that they couldn't really push the song and promote the song or perform the song how they wanted to, because Jay-Z kept getting in the middle, allegedly, keeping Sean Paul off of the radar, especially when it came to Beyonce, because he was getting a lot of clout, Sean Paul, off of Beyonce at the time, because she just became this massive, solo star. She was already a star, but this album pushed Beyonce to the next level. And Jay-Z was already getting all the clout off of Beyonce at the time, especially with the song Crazy in Love. And that was a big video. It was Beyonce, coming outside of the group, and it's just, look, it's just me now. And that's what Jay-Z wanted. He wanted it to just be him and Beyonce, and that's exactly what Jay-Z got. So Sean Paul was a problem, at that time, because he was feeding off of Beyonce's solo energy, and I feel that Jay-Z was trying to soak up as much as that as he could, kind of push Beyonce more so of underneath his wing versus Beyonce being under her father, Matthew Knowles' wing at the time. To further clarify what I mean about Jay-Z soaking up Beyonce's energy, I know that Jay-Z was a big artist himself at the time, especially when Beyonce was doing her solo album and coming out with her solo career. But think about it. The song Crazy in Love was the first single that came from Beyonce's Dangerously in Love album. Before you know it, that song is no longer number one. Nobody's talking about Crazy in Love or anything like that, because Baby Boy comes out and it just takes over. It sat at number one for 9 weeks straight. So instead of this energy as, look, it's Jay-Z and Beyonce, as the head honchos, the king and queen of music, it's Sean Paul and Beyonce. It's like they're at the top. Everybody's discussing them. Everybody's saying that Beyonce and Sean Paul should date and all of these things. It's taking the energy from Jay-Z. So now nobody's talking about Jay-Z anymore when it comes to Beyonce. And when Beyonce came out in 2003, she took over 2003, 2004. She has so many hits that came from that album, and she was on top of the world. And Jay-Z was no longer being mentioned within Beyonce's newfound success. It was more so of Jay-Z, Sean Paul, and Beyonce versus Jay-Z and Beyonce, and that was a problem. Jay-Z and Matthew Knowles allegedly had a business arrangement when it came to Beyonce, that Jay-Z was going to help Beyonce become not only the queen of R&B and pop, but also hip hop. He was going to bring her over into the fold so that she would be accepted immediately by the hip hop culture and world, which actually did happen. What was unforeseen is that, because everybody was supposed to be talking about Jay-Z and Beyonce, and that's exactly what was happening. And Crazy in Love soared to the top. But then all of a sudden, what wasn't planned, unforeseen, was Sean Paul's single with Beyonce, overtaking Crazy in Love. And it did just that. It kind of pushed it out. So instead of people interviewing Beyonce, asking her about her and Jay-Z and their hit single, now it's everybody wants to talk to Beyonce about Baby Boy and Sean Paul instead of talking about Jay-Z. So that's where things started to kind of go left. It started to go a little dark, you know, if you will, because now Jay-Z is just like, okay, well, I'm doing all of this in vain. You know, Sean Paul and Beyonce could have made this agreement. You know, we made this agreement and that's my girl. So like, yeah, no, like what's going on with this? So I think that's another reason why Sean Paul wasn't given the opportunity to be at the Grammys with Beyonce and perform the song Baby Boy more, because they wanted the spotlight to stay on Jay-Z and Beyonce. If we keep having Beyonce and Sean Paul perform everywhere and, you know, signing CDs and stuff together and all of that, this is more so of the Sean Paul Beyonce show. Yeah, no, this is supposed to be about Jay-Z and Beyonce. Even more reason for Matthew Knowles, because he was managing Beyonce at the time, and for Jay-Z to be able to convene and come through like, yeah, no, this isn't happening. You don't need to perform this. Just perform it one time and let it go. We need to move on to the next singles. And that's why I feel that they were pushing Beyonce's other singles from the album so hard so that they could get rid of Baby Boy. That was the whole plan. Think about it. Sean Paul decides to backtrack. And when I say backtrack, he says that when he went onto that radio show, that his words were taken out of context. So Sean Paul decides to come forward and reiterate how he felt about the situation about Beyonce and Jay-Z. Sean Paul says that the recent comments he made on a Jamaican radio station regarding Jay-Z and Beyonce was taken out of context. Paul recently appeared on the 2 Live Crew Action and Bergman radio show, where he reportedly backed up the host's theory that Jay-Z wasn't comfortable with their 2003 collaboration, Baby Boy, because he didn't like them spending time together. In a new interview with Hot New Hip Hop, Paul set the record straight. His quote, "It was a radio show here in Jamaica, and I get this regularly. When I go to Texas, also radio shows there, I don't know what it is. People are like, so tell me." And it gets to the part in the interview and they're like, "What happened with you and Beyonce?" Nothing really happened. The song was hit. It was dope, Paul explained. Paul went on to explain what he actually meant by his comments. "You know, some of them made up their own mind. That's whatever. Sometimes with interviews you can say, I'd rather not speak about it, but then people would think something was going on," he said. "So I was trying to defend it like, hey, nah, but weird things did happen. That's probably why there were rumors. But people leave out that's probably why the rumors were apart." So Sean Paul does backtrack a little bit, but he still does admit weird things did go on between him, Jay-Z, and Beyonce. It was very weird. You know, the situation that happened, which jealousy is weird. People do weird things when they are jealous. So it's not him saying that it didn't happen. He was just saying how people try to make it so direct, like there was really things that was all up in your face, and Jay-Z coming in there blatantly saying certain things like, "Get out of here with him, I'm jealous," you know, type of situation. He's like, no, it wasn't nothing like that. But a lot of weird stuff did happen. And like Sean Paul said, if you state that you don't want to speak on it or you would rather move on to another question, that's going to cause people to think that there is something there. So you're damned if you do and you're kind of damned if you don't. So he's just like, that's all. I get this question often because there's obviously something there. And I feel that that's why it comes up, because there is truth to what people were going around saying. Even Sean Paul himself admitted that there were certain things going on behind the scenes with Jay-Z when I was working with Beyonce, but it wasn't as big as people are trying to make it type of situation. Not only did Beyonce and Sean Paul just perform the song Baby Boy once, just literally one time in 20-something years, one time, Beyonce and Sean Paul also did not film together doing the video Baby Boy. So that was another thing that made people kind of look at the situation as sketchy, because it's just like, okay, well, it does seem as if something happened behind the scenes, because why didn't you two film together? So throughout the entire Baby Boy video, and it's not like Beyonce and Sean Paul's schedules were so polar opposite that they have to film at different times. No, Beyonce and Sean Paul were on the filming set together. They were. They just didn't film together. Not one part of that video do you see Beyonce and Sean Paul in the same frame. You would think that they like didn't like each other or something, because it's like, well, why didn't you guys shoot the video together? So let's get into Sean Paul's reasoning into why he was told that they did not film the video Baby Boy together. He so vaguely touched on what transpired while they were shooting the video, in which his part was filmed separately from Beyonce's. His quote, "Things were weird that happened on stage with our performance with the video. I know a headline said, 'Oh, Jay-Z didn't want me there.' It had nothing to do with him as far as I'm concerned," Paul explained. Beyonce's her own artist that was managed by her own manager. They were going out at the time. They weren't married yet. I don't think he would have influenced whatever her vision was. She was a very determined person. She's very precise with her thoughts and her movements, and she works very hard. It was probably her vision. Like I said before, her father, Matthew Knowles, was her manager at the time. Jay-Z and Matthew Knowles allegedly had an agreement to make Beyonce big. So of course, Matthew is going to be influenced by what Jay-Z says. Here's the problem with what Sean Paul said. Sean Paul says they were going out at the time. They weren't married yet. Beyonce said, now Beyonce, you know I love you, girl, but Beyonce said that her and Jay-Z did not start dating until she was 19. Baby Boy was filmed when Beyonce was 18. So that means that Beyonce and Jay-Z were dating already. Okay? The album Dangerously in Love was recorded while Beyonce was 17. Even in that album stating that she was in love with a Sagittarius, meaning that they probably weren't together within that time frame. Okay? So was she dating Jay-Z before she was 17? I don't know. Because she said she was in love, and that means that she was recording the album at the time. So she had to be 16 going on 17, or just turned 17 recording this album, or recording it once again while she was 16. Okay? So nobody knew that Jay-Z and Beyonce were dating. Okay? Which would make Beyonce not necessarily have been telling the truth about the time that her and Jay-Z truly became a couple, which she said was when she was 19. All right. Why Sean Paul mattered so much in 2003 is because Sean Paul basically exposed that Jay-Z and Beyonce were dating. Nobody knew that. Sean Paul is the proof, because everybody wanted him to date Beyonce, and everybody wanted Beyonce to date Sean Paul. So if not for Sean Paul, we would not have known that they were dating already, that Jay-Z and Beyonce were already in a relationship. So that's what makes Sean Paul so significant in their timeline, is because he is basically the reason they got outed for dating. Okay? Now, do we know for a fact that Jay-Z didn't want Sean Paul in the video? Not necessarily. But what Sean Paul saying, there was a lot of weird things going on while they were filming the video. And one moment they were supposed to be in the scene, and then they weren't. And then you look up and he's just all in the video after the editing is done by himself. It's like him and Beyonce was never on set at the same time, and they actually were. So I believe Jay-Z definitely could have said something behind the scenes to Matthew Knowles and told him that he did not want Sean Paul and Beyonce in the same films together or filming together. We don't want to see any chemistry, between them two. There's already enough going on, about Sean Paul and Beyonce, because again, Beyonce was listed as a single woman. She was single, and her and Sean Paul are closer in age. So it made more sense for people to want them two to date instead of Beyonce dating a grown man, and she's just turning 18 years old. So with that being said, I believe Jay-Z influenced it. And to back that up, let's get into another artist that Jay-Z did not want on film with Beyonce, that did not want them two in the same frames together at all whatsoever, even made the men leave the video shoot and go into their dressing rooms while Beyonce filmed. Bun B had the same experience as Sean Paul. Let's get into that. Bun B had a similar experience following his collaboration with Beyonce and Slim Thug for the song Check on It. This is in New York, so we're on the set and we're filming the video. And if you look at the video, there's a lot of skimpy outfits. Queenie is there also, so it's not like I'm there salivating over another woman, Bun says, referencing his wife's presence at the video shoot. But we're there like, whoa, this is crazy. Beyonce's dancing in this short skirt and she's dancing in like a bikini type of thing, you know? The Trill OG began setting up the vibes on the set with Hype Williams directing the video. While all of this was happening, I think this was the scene with the chair. So it's like her and several other girls and they're all in these short skirts and they're all dancing seductively on the chair. They've got a leg up on the chair so you can kind of see some thigh and maybe a little bit of butt if you're staring hard enough. And Jay-Z calls and talks to one of her assistants. Bun continues. If I had to guess, it would have been her cousin Angie that he would have talked to because Angie was always the right hand to Beyonce. He's like, yeah, how's the video going? What's going good? Are there guys there? All the guys that are there are us, the only men that are there. Well, let me say this. There were other men there, but they weren't straight. The racy scene prompted Ho to protect his then girlfriend and have all the men clear out of the room. So they immediately come over to us and kick us all out of our dressing rooms, and we're told to stay there until we have the shoot. We're not allowed to watch Beyonce dance anymore, Bun says. Bun B says Beyonce eventually came over to apologize and explain what happened. I'm so sorry you guys had to leave the room, but Jay's not comfortable. Bun recalls her saying, and we're all like, we understand fully. That's no problem. We're just happy to be here. Jay-Z had all of the men removed from the video shoot. Bun B, Slim Thug, all of their little entourage that they came with, and, you know, they all had to go because of Jay-Z. Jay-Z called Angie, which is Beyonce's assistant, and it's also Beyonce's family. A lot of Beyonce's family works for her. And allegedly, they had told Jay-Z that there were men there because Jay-Z questioned if there were men, you know, there, which obviously Jay-Z knew that there was because Slim Thug and Bun B were on the track. So why would they not be there? They're a part of the video. So he wanted all of them gone because he didn't want them watching Beyonce, trying to flirt with her, contact her in any way or anything like that, which is also weird on Beyonce's behalf because it's just like, girl, blink once if you're okay and twice if you're not. Beyonce, girl, love you. But from what Bun B gathers, you never spoke to any of the men that were a part of the song. So when Bun B got there, you never approached him and said, hey, thanks for coming. You know, the same thing with Slim Thug. So it's like, are you that conditioned, you know, Beyonce, that you can't even say hello, you know, to other men? I just kind of find that kind of crazy when Jay-Z does whatever he wants to do in videos and gets as close as he wants to do with his women counterparts. He does what he wants, and Beyonce kind of just sits there and kind of allows it. But with Jay-Z, it's the complete opposite. So if this happened on set with Bun B, I can only imagine that this same thing happened with Sean Paul. There's somebody behind the scenes had been contacted by Jay-Z, and they told him, or he told them, that he didn't want them in any frames together. He didn't want any type of chemistry between them. Make sure you keep them separate. And they did just that. The same thing with Bun B. Beyonce came and apologized to Bun B, which I think is great that she did, because that's unnecessary. It's really uncalled for. He's there on set with his whole wife, Beyonce. I highly doubt he's going to try to get with you in front of her. You know, maybe if she wasn't there, I could see it. But with her being present, I think that Bun B was on his best behavior. And Beyonce is a queen, so there really is no reason to approach her like that, knowing she's not going anyway. So, yeah, I just find that very misleading with them trying to make it seem as if Jay-Z had no impact and why Sean Paul and Beyonce were kept separate. So let me know what you think in the comments. There are other artists that have been removed from certain songs of Beyonce's, and there have also been other artists that have not been a part of Beyonce's videos. People like Drake, Andre 3000. There are plenty of other men that were ostracized from Beyonce as well. So if you want, we can definitely do another part on that. But I hope you enjoyed. This is what I have on what happened between Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Sean Paul. I love you all. And until the next video, Bye.